Drone operators of the 14th Separate Regiment of the Ukrainian Armed Forces have intercepted and damaged vehicles of the occupying Russian army in eastern Donetsk region, as well as REMKL repair and evacuation vehicle trying to evacuate them from the area. The armored vehicles were destroyed by kamikaze drone strikes. The Russian servicemen in the area abandoned their military equipment and hid in a forest strip. Ukrainians have also intercepted and struck a self-propelled artillery installation hidden near residential buildings in one of the nearby occupied settlements. The artillery installation was destroyed by kamikaze drone strikes.
After 2022, Kiev opened an embassy in Nouakchott. The Ukrainian embassy oversees food supplies for refugees from Mali. Ambassador for African Affairs Maxim Soub said that even before the Russian army's invasion, Ukraine was training the Mauritanian armed forces, sharing new technologies. Reuters reports. Ukraine's new activity comes amid ongoing tensions between Mali, where the Kremlin backs the Tuaregs, and Mauritania. Russia's military presence undermines stability throughout Africa. Russian companies are involved in the mining business, and mercenaries guard the leaders of Central and West African countries. Moreover, the Russian Federation is the main supplier of weapons to African countries. Kiev wants to counter Russia's narrative in Africa to boost trade. There are currently 18 Ukrainian missions in Africa. Kiev has managed to win over Congo and Côte d'Ivoire and plans to open an embassy in Sudan by the end of 2025. However, Ukraine cannot yet keep up with the Russian Federation, which has 40 missions in Africa and plans to open 7 more, especially since the Kremlin has deep military and commercial ties. Kiev is mainly trying to enlist the support of African countries by sending food. In total, Kiev has managed to send about 300,000 tons of food to date. In April 2025, Zelensky became the first Ukrainian president to visit South Africa, a close ally of the Russian Federation. Experts say that Ukraine mainly supplies products to North African countries, and the center and South gets the leftovers. Recall, Russia suffered significant blows to its reputation in mid-2024. An attack on its territory by Ukraine came as a surprise. In West Africa, the Wagner mercenary group, supported by Russia, suffered one of its heaviest fatalities in Mali. With the involvement of Ukraine in the war in Sudan and Mali, it looks like African countries are in fact getting drawn in and on their own territory. A new proxy war will have severe implications for the region and continent more broadly. The security dynamics in Africa are very complicated, with issues such as ethnicity, religion, inequality, topography, and poverty adding to the fragility. Libya is an example of how external interference could result in a conflict lasting decades and destabilizing the entire region. African leaders must avoid such foreign intervention as that of Libya, which has been labeled a failure. The statement by the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, General Alexander Syrsky, about possible offensive actions may be connected with two main aspects. Military expert and former SBU employee Ivan Stupak expressed this opinion on Radio NV. The first probable reason, according to Stupak, concerns the Ukrainian missile program. We are counting on German assistance, that they will help us with components, machines, technologies, drawings, and we will speed it up. The president also spoke about this, that Ukrainian ballistics, cruise missiles, may appear in Russian airspace in the near future, the expert noted. At the same time, Ivan Stupak believes that a more likely reason is related to the increased activity of Ukrainian UAV pilots. The Russian side has been raging for several days now. After the appointment of Mr. Madya, the Ukrainians began to hunt not for Russian logistics, loaves of bread or even tanks, but they are hunting for Russian counterparts, UAV operators, the expert said. According to Stupak, the Ukrainian side is thus clearing space to get rid of Russian unmanned aircraft in certain areas. This will allow clearing the air and being able to move forward. He emphasized that Russian UAVs cause significant damage. About 70 to 75% of our guys get 300 on the fronts. This is a consequence of Russian UAVs. Earlier, it was reported that the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Alexander Syrsky, stated that the possibility of a new offensive from Belarus cannot be ruled out. He did not rule out that this could happen after the joint exercises of the armies of Russia and Belarus, called West 2025, planned for September. Syrsky recalled that a similar scenario had already been implemented in February 2022 when, after the completion of joint exercises, Russian troops remained in Belarus and used its territory for a large-scale invasion. Recall that ISW analysts stated that Russia and Belarus have reduced the scale of the joint military exercises Zapad 2025, which were supposed to take place in September 2025, and moved the main maneuver further away from the western borders of Belarus, which indicates an attempt to position themselves as safe for the West. President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed the opinion that Alexander Lukashenko fears that Ukraine will consider the presence of the Russian contingent as preparation for offensive actions.